So I think it's about time that I did another beginner's guide to Inkstitch. Since the last one that I did, a couple years old, there's been several releases of Inkstitch, and it's kind of not anything like it was then. Oh, I'm going to do another series of beginner's guide to Inkstitch. This will be video number 1, probably obviously. And this will be installation and overview of Inkstitch. This one should be fairly short. I'm not going to install Inkscape and Inkstitch on 3 different operating systems like I have done in the past because it's so much easier to do now. Tremendously easier to do now. I am going to start off with some installation notes because all 3 of the operating systems have notes that you need to follow in order to have a pleasant experience the first time that you try using it. We're going to jump to inkscape.org, where you can go if you're on Windows, or I'm assuming if you're on Mac. If you're on Linux, please use your repositories to install Inkscape. Please. You don't want Flatpak. You don't want AppImage. You don't want Snap. You don't want any of those. You want Inkscape from your repository. In fact, just real quick, I'll throw in Discover, which is that's where I get my apps from. Let it load up. If I type in Inkscape, and I'm using OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, it's showing that first because I already have it installed. It's not actually going to give me another option. Okay, so if I click that, click the drop down, yes. Like, for example, right here, I can install it from OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, or I can install it from FlatHub. Don't do the FlatHub. You want your distro's repository. So I have installed it from OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. I have no issues. So keep that in mind. And again, if I click download now in a Linux environment, click new Linux, I get AppImage or I get PPA. Technically, a PPA is a repository. If that's your only option, do the PPA. Works in Ubuntu and Ubuntu derivatives. Again, try it. If you're on Linux, don't go to inkscape.org. Install it from a repository. Windows and Mac, go to inkscape.org. Get your latest download. Version 1.3.2 is the most recent. They do have the beta out for 1.4 beta. I have not tried that with Inkstitch yet, but now that I know it's there, you know I'm going to. So, Inkstitch 3.1.0 has just released about a week ago. So this is going to be good for another year, probably. And when you come to inkstitch.org, this is your welcome screen. All you have to do, you may have to scroll down a piece, install Inkstitch. So, another note for all of the operating systems, install Inkscape. Number 1. Number 2, run Inkscape. Number 3, close Inkscape. Number 4, install Inkstitch. And you're going to come here, you're going to get whichever one you need. Windows is a .exe or an MSI. Mac is whatever Mac uses. Linux, under Linux you have .deb, .rpm, an installer script, and the tar archive. .deb, Ubuntu and Ubuntu derivatives, Linux Mint, etc. Debian, of course, etc. RPM, OpenSUSE Tumbleweed, Fedora, I think PC Linux OS, I believe, is RPM. Probably a couple more, I don't remember. Installer script is going to be a .sh. I do have older videos showing how to use all 3 of these, and they still work. The downloader script is going to be for Manjaro, Arch, probably Gentoo. I don't know about Gentoo. But the ones that are not classified .deb, not classified RPM, you're going to want to use that installer script. All else fails, you've got the tar archive. Once you have it downloaded, should be on any operating system, a double click. To install it in Linux, there is command line for installing it. Easy peasy. Okay, as you can see, I have a virtual machine running of Windows. Brand new install, Windows 10. This should be true in Windows 11 too. And the reason I'm showing this, I'm not doing it step by step, but I am going to show a couple pointers because Windows is the most problematic of the operating system architectures because of Windows. Honestly. First of all, again, go to inkscape.org, pick your download file, which I have already done. Leave. Downloads, Inkscape. Okay, there's Inkscape. I'm going to get that running. That can run in the background while I'm showing you what I need to show you. Okay, so now we're going to go to Inkstitch. Inkstitch.org. And scroll down. Install Inkstitch. Windows. It's a 64-bit. Okay, so the first thing I want to call out is right here where it says Inkstitch isn't commonly downloaded. It's got a yellow exclamation point. Make sure you trust it. Do the project a favor. Right-click that and report this file as safe. That'll go to feedback. WAG. Yes. And it is a safe website. Okay. What? Okay. New code. E6W. Okay. That. Okay. Now, the reason I'm asking you to do this is because it actually helps the project out. The reason that Microsoft doesn't recognize it as a safe file, the wording in that was self-explanatory. This is not a file people usually download. But if they get enough reports that it is a safe download, it is a safe website, then Microsoft will ease up on their protections against Inkstitch. And it's just that Microsoft doesn't know what Inkstitch is, the program, not the company. So the more times that the more people we can get to say this is a safe file, this is a safe website. Don't know what the threshold is, but eventually it'll say, okay, it's a safe website. And I won't show that hacky yellow exclamation point anymore. So just that's a favor to the project itself. That'll help in the long run. Okay, I have all that. Finish my Inkscape.install. Install. Double click Inkscape, get it running. Run through the little startup thing that it does. Oh, hit save, hit thanks. Don't show this every time. Document. Close document. Now we're going to run Inkstitch. And the reason that I am still showing you Windows things because of Windows. Yeah. Windows. Ah, boy. And you know what? I'm forced to use Windows through work too, so I understand. It's safe. Okay. I guess after you say file is safe, already done. Right click, keep. Make sure you trust. Go more, keep anyway. And see, after we cross the threshold, this won't be a thing anymore. Oh boy. Okay. Now I'm going to double click the Inkstitch installer. Again, might not be safe. Microsoft Defender. Click more info. Run anyway. Next. Yes. Install. This is all of the reason, every bit of this is the reason that I'm showing you me installing Windows. It is the most problematic one because of Windows. And I'm not done yet. So now that we have done that, Inkstitch still won't run. What we need to do is go into Defender. And this is depending on if you run Defender as your antivirus. If you run McAfee or or any of those other ones, don't. But if you do, you'll have to figure out how to whitelist Inkstitch through their documentation. Allow an app or feature through Windows Defender Firewall. It's not actually firewall. Hold on. Yeah, where do I need to be? I need to be in System Security. Okay, I was actually in the wrong place. So type in Defender and you need to select Windows Security, which means you don't have to type in Defender. You can just type in Security. It's funny how that works. Okay, one of these. It might be that one. Yeah, it's that one. Manage settings on virus. Exclusions. That's what we need. Yes, add an exclusion. I'm going to accept the entire folder of Inkstitch. I remember where it is. Okay, I'm going to show you how to find it. I'm going to run Inkscape. Go Edit, Preferences, System, User Extensions. That is where Inkstitch should be, and it is. Extensions, Inkstitch. And it should be that one. I'll copy that. Go back to Windows Security, Virus Threat. Scroll down, Exclusions. To remove exclusion. Add exclusion, folder. Now we got the whole Inkstitch. Outstanding. So we should be good now. Close that out. Close that out. We're going to refire up Inkscape. All of this is necessary because of Windows. So we have. I'll share links. We have Facebook group and Reddit group. And 9 times out of 10, when there's a problem with install and it's Windows, it's because of antivirus. So go Inkstitch lettering. Hit sign. Hit sign. Hit apply and quit. And it worked. So it is working. All of that. And a sandwich too. Okay, so for summary of the installation. If you're on Mac, you have to run it. You have to run Inkscape first. Install it, run it, close it. It's a must on Mac. Last time I knew you had to do that or it just ain't going to take. On Windows, you saw all that mess of problems that I had trying to get it to install. You download it in that browser. You get the little yellow icon. Tell Microsoft that it's safe. After you've told Microsoft that it's safe, you still have to tell your machine this is safe and I want to keep it. So click Keep. After you say it's safe and I want to keep it, you go to install it. You still have to tell it, I think this is safe. Click the more information button, and then you can install it anyway. After you have installed it, you still have to tell your machine that it's safe. You have to go into Windows Defender or whatever antivirus running that you're running and tell it this file or this folder is safe. Don't quarantine it, because if it quarantines it, it's going to remove some of those files that are in that Inkstitch folder as part of the quarantine, and it's not going to work at all. So yeah, it's ugly when it comes to Windows, and it's just Windows trying to keep people safe from Windows, honestly. Linux, make sure you're doing an Inkscape install from your repository. You don't want app image, you don't want Flatpak, you don't want snaps. I have gotten it to work in app image and Flatpak. I have not ever gotten it to work doing a snap. Remove the headaches, remove the problems, just install it from your repository and all will be wonderful. Run it, close it, install Inkstitch, you should be golden. Okay, that's all of the install info I have. Let's go on with we're just going to do a quick summary of Inkstitch. It's a digitizing program made to more or less replace the expensive ones out there, the Hatch, the Brilliance, other one that I can't think of. They're all very expensive. Inkstitch is open source. It is free. Being open source and free, it can only use certain file extensions that are not copyrighted and protected. It can only use the open source ones, and we'll show you that list shortly. But let's go on to what stitch library it has. It has under stroke, running stitch, bean, manual, ripple, zigzag. Under satin stitch, it has satin column, E stitch, S stitch, zigzag, satin. Under fill, it has fill stitch, circular, contour, guided, linear gradient, meander fill, tartan, and legacy. So very cool, very cool. We're going to look at a little bit of this. Stroke stitches are used for outlines or line art embroidery to add details to your design. You can see the nice outline stitch of the butterfly. That's a standard running stitch. Bean stitch, manual stitch is wherever you click is where it puts the needle. Ripple stitch, very cool. Zigzag stitch, just back and forth. Under satin, this is kind of more your standard satin column, an E stitch, an S stitch, zigzag satin, standard satin versus a zigzag satin. Under fill, see the fill of the dolphin. There's your standard fill stitch. Here is a circular fill. I've used that some. Contour fill, I use that a lot. I love it. Guided fill, don't use it very often, but it's very handy. And linear gradient and meander fill. I've done several hats based on a meander fill with a satin outline stitch. Very, very cool. Tartan, I have not used it yet, but it is very cool. There are some Inkstitch letterings that are based on the tartan fill. Very cool. And legacy fill. In legacy fill, the extension will still break up the shape into sections, each of which can be embroidered in one go. Then these sections will be fill stitched one at a time, jumping directly between stitch sections. So that's your standard stitch library, just about anything that you need there. And we're going to go on to supported file formats. This is very important. A lot of people don't know whether or not their machine can use something else other than what they've been told. So to make it a little bit easier, I have just published a test DST, let's see, DST test.dst file, DST test.dst file. I've just posted that on lowtechlinux.com. If you want to see if your machine will work with a DST file, and spoiler alert, almost all of them can, just click on that, come here, use this file to test if your machine can use a DST file format. Most can. I'm going to click that. It's going to download. It downloads as a .zip because I don't have permissions on my WordPress site to upload a .dst, and I forgot where to set that. Now that I think about it, I think it's an INI file on the server. Might look into that, might not. This works. It's a dst.zip. I'm going to extract that. There, extract here. dst.test. And if your machine will, once you extract it, load the DST in your machine, it should look something similar to this, if it's going to work. And we'll just real quick, we'll do a little simulator. Just it works. This is the I and the T for it is Inkstitch lettering. It's actually my college format that I also have available on my website. It is not part of the standard Inkstitch download yet. And Works is a machine font, is a system font that I have set to meander stitch fill with a satin stitch outline. Very cool. So if you see that, your colors on your machine will probably be different. DST files do not hold color information. They just hold color block and next color block and next color block. There is no color associated to those, and it's up to your machine just to set the next one and the next one. Okay, so back to file formats. As I was saying earlier, Inkstitch is an open source project, and as such, they can only use open source tools to create open source files. The embroidery file formats that are truly open source that can be used freely is this first group right here where it says writing, which is CSV, DST, EXP, JEF, PEC, PES, SVG, TXT, G-code, U01, VP3. Those are the ones that Inkstitch can write. So if you need to save your file as a .vp3, Inkstitch supports that. If it's not in the writing part, you can't write that file, but it can read all of these. So you'll notice that some of the very, very copyrighted, very owned formats aren't here, like the Hatch and the Wilcom format. They're not on this page. Not going to work. Ever. Probably ever. With no amount of begging to fix that. Because they are closed, copyrighted formats, and the Inkstitch project doesn't want to get sued, honestly. This is the reason that I put the .dst test file on my website for you to try it, is because I personally have not run across an embroidery machine that didn't recognize a .dst. I'm not saying they're not out there. They probably are. But .dst is the most used backup file format of all of them. It's the oldest file format, and it's one of the simplest file formats. So almost every embroidery machine will read a .dst. So give it a try. And it may work on your machine that doesn't say anything about your file system being here. A .dst might work. Try that test file out and see if it does. So last, and certainly not least, Inkstitch has the ability to generate a PDF for the instruction list of the embroidery. I'm going to show that to you. This is one of the designs that I digitized. Show that to you. Go to Inkstitch, visualize and export, PDF export. This does take a minute to render because there's a lot of things going on in the background. Now, this is new. A print preview has been opened in your browser, which is actually, I think, pretty darn cool. The window will stay open in order to communicate with the JavaScript code running in your browser. This window will close after you close the print preview in your browser, or you can close manually if necessary. You can either click close here, or it will close automatically when you close this out. But anyway, this is the PDF rendition, which is really cool. This is awesome. And then here's your instructions list for whoever's getting this file. In order to print it in the right order, they get this instruction list on what color's next. So blue would be first, second, light blue second, yellow third, etc., etc. Apparently, I thought I'd done these the same color, but apparently I didn't. And you can add operator notes right here. And then you can print so that you can hand it to your operator. You can save it with the file in a zip so that whoever downloads it will get the instruction set. There's also settings. You can unset operator preview and just have the operator detailed view as the here. So I no longer have the big image, and you can change the thumbnail size to something like that if you needed to. Interesting. Alrighty. So very cool, very cool. And you can also enter job title, enter client's name, purchase order number. You can change this logo right here to your company logo. It's very awesome. I have this already, and well, I did have that set in production. I haven't been digitizing for public as much as digitizing for actually embroidering lately. So that's one's taken away from the other. It is what it is. You only have so much time in a day. So very cool. All these options are very cool. And my Windows, when my Windows closes, it shatters. And I just saw that little pop-up shatter on this screen over here. So I knew that it closed out. As soon as I closed out that browser window, that pop-up closed out. Very cool. Very cool. But you can see in the about version 3.1.0 Linux. A lot of good things. I'm going to make at least a couple more videos on this beginner's guide. Probably the next one's going to be lettering, and I'll include Inkstitch lettering and system lettering in that. I'm not going to do how to create fonts for lettering or import. That's going to be more advanced. That might be a beginner's guide, advanced class. But these next few videos are all going to be beginner based for beginners, and then we'll go from there. So I hope you enjoyed this. A lot of my viewers are already going to know all this, and if you sat and watched through some of it, I appreciate that. If you don't, give it a like, I'd greatly appreciate it. If you liked it, like it. If you want to see more of this, subscribe. And that's all for this video. And as always, thank you so much for watching.